Hello, and welcome back to the cabin. Last week we did chapters 5 and 6, but it was during a thunderstorm and it was so loud I could hardly hear myself. So I'm going to reread them today and then add chapter 7 at the end. It's a long chapter. And of course we have our country foods here with us as usual, enjoying our table of abundance. A smudge is going. We've cleansed the area. And we are reading from book 3, Home is Calling. We've got hot tea, of course. And of course we know October is Sasquatch month, and this kind of follows that theme. So let's get into it. Book 3, Home is Calling. Chapter 5, Planning Our Exit. And the warning, there's some graphic dead animal descriptions in these chapters. Chapter 4 ended saying, we will make a plan to leave in a day or two, and we all agreed. We will take all the food stores with us, and the winter shutters will be closed on the windows. All furs and hides will be packed into the canoes. The tree cache and the underground cache are emptied and brought into the cabin to see that nothing has spoiled. Some meat is wrapped in hides and some put in baskets. I'm excited about going to our home village and seeing all my loved ones. My grandsons are impressed with the little cabin and the outdoor kitchen. They take turns telling me how proud they are to have a grandmother like me who can survive in the wilds alone. They thank me for all the stories and lessons growing up, and that it has made them the young man that they are today. They are also surprised by how much food I've stored away. I told them how I ate fresh fish and berries and deer meat when I could, and that saved on the stored food. I told them how I thought about what if. And what if I get injured? I might not be able to hunt or cook, so I prepared for those what ifs. Being alone in the bush means you rely on yourself and all that you've been taught. It was great for the most part, but now I'm ready to leave, and home is calling. And with my grandson's help, this adventure is heading home. I haven't told them what's been happening. I'll save these encounters for another time. There's been activity across the lake, but we've decided to ignore them and continue to take inventory of what we will take with us. Just then, we hear water splashing and screams from the forest across the lake. 2 large shadows cross near the creek, out across the valley meadow, and the screams continue. Mixed with howls and low-toned growls, it goes right through me. It's unsettling. We all look at each other and come to sit by the fire. The fear on their faces fades. At least they're on that side of the lake. Little Bear says they sound like they're trying to talk to each other. And maybe they are. It sounds like some type of communication. Day is turning into night, and night is becoming a scary time. We had a bit of a feast with all these extra food stores and big pots of tea. We're building up our strength for the adventure ahead. Little Hawk, my youngest grandson, is now being called Hawkeye. He is watching across the lake with binoculars and keeping watch so that we're all safe. He has a spot along the tree line where there's some brush for cover. It's near the cabin and the kitchen for safety. When he's seen enough, he hands the binoculars to one of the other boys. Another tense night around the fire. The howling was more of a low-toned chant or thrumbling. We spoke quietly of how maybe they are an ancient people. We've heard stories for many hundreds of years and beyond, but the stories I remember most are the ones told around the fire when the children were asleep. Absolutely terrifying encounters. People being watched, followed, chased, and even hunted. Many a hunting party came back full of fear and stories, and some didn't come back at all. Some were found torn to shreds with blood and bone everywhere. Some mangled and hung high in a tree. Some just vanished, never to be seen again. Women, children, mothers with children. When people disappear out of your life without a reasonable explanation, it can be hard to cope with the grief that has too many questions, mostly unanswered questions. I need a cup of tea to settle my nerves. Chapter 6, Leaving This Place and Returning to Another. Again, there's a graphic warning. I know some of you might say stand your ground, but it's best to step aside for nature and let it take its course. Sometimes we interfere too much and upset the balance of things. I went to a zoo once, only once. I didn't stay long, and I cried all the way, and long after we left. A memory I would forget if I could. A reminder that we are all connected and need to respect other living beings, animals, plants, and the unknown. Little Tree is up most of the night, keeping the fires going and keeping watch. Again, the howling and the screaming went on for most of the night. At one point, I thought I could hear whispering outside the cabin. I lay here thinking. The limping fox is now gone, and I miss those alarm barks and screeches. Most of the birds have gone too. It's like some sort of life has been scared away. Not a very happy place anymore. We are leaving in the morning. And the next morning couldn't come soon enough. I woke before the sun to the dim light of the fireplace. All the boys were sleeping, but woke easily as I made tea and shuffled around, handing them each a cup and a piece of dry meat. Then I quietly said, "Get ready, boys. We're leaving at first light." In the gray glow just before dawn, we loaded the canoes with all we could. Small bits of dry fish and deer meat, with berries in small baskets, we left in a large old stump as a gift, an offering, an understanding. In hopes that we could quietly slip away along the shoreline, then head over to the creek. We'll line walk the canoes loaded with supplies upstream until we reach the other lake before the river. The portages will be hard work and long traveled, and the paddling will be glorious. each dip getting us closer to our home village. I put 2 more logs on the fire and we push away from shore. I won't look back, and I didn't. When we reached the creek and got out of the canoes, we roped our canoes for pulling, then took one long look across the lake to see the smoke coming from the cabin chimney. It was a good home to me, but I won't be back. I wonder if this is why all the people left this area many years ago. Maybe they have a territory, they meaning Sasquatch, Sabe. As a large rock splashes into the lake near the mouth of the creek, and we all jump and look up the hill to see the hairy man, and he's looking right at us. We quickly look away and begin pulling the canoes up the creek, followed by a few knocks and a blood-curdling scream. Then silence. I felt like I was holding my breath and forced myself to relax. The boys talked very little and mostly made a few hand signs to communicate with each other instead of speaking out loud. Our pace was steady and we ate along the way. If we could cross the lake before dark, we could wake early for the first long portage. But pulling the heavy canoes up creek was tiring. We set up camp at the edge of the lake. Some call this lake Dark Lake, and it was. We slept out under the stars with hides to keep us dry from the heavy morning spring dew. And somewhere in the distance we could still hear the howling and the screaming through the valley and the trees. Farther away than at the cabin, but still frightening. We didn't sleep much that night, and again I thought I heard whispers through the trees. How could a place so beautiful turn so strange so fast? One day you're living your best life, and the next day you're fleeing for your life and the lives of your grandsons. My rescue team. My heart. And here we are, another sleepless night in the wilds, on the adventure of our lives. And the best part is that we're all together to strengthen each other, comfort and reassure each other, and to protect each other no matter what or who. The sun begins to rise as we push the canoes into the lake. Our paddles are quietly dipping, and we feel our stomachs wanting tea and fish. We will eat later, and no fires for tea. We need to put distance on the map and keep going until we must stop. I'm so thankful for these strong young men. They will continue the ways and the knowledge long after I'm gone. They'll tell the old stories and teach the young for generations to come. It's late in the day when we reach the next portage. We're tired and hungry and need to rest. A fire for tea and warm up some dry meat and fish. Sleep comes easy just before dark, and we woke to hear drums somewhere in the distance. No wind, just silence, then drums. It floats on a light breeze, then fades. Then we're startled by knocks, very close to where we were laying on the ground with our hides. A few logs are put on the fire, and we wait out the night in complete fear. The drums stopped hours ago, and the almost silent fear has gripped us and won't let us go. I don't know how much more I can take. It's exhausting and draining. The howls still echo at a distance, and one more tree knock close to us. The boys take turn keeping watch and putting wood on the fire with a few long branches in case we need weapons to protect ourselves and each other. I wouldn't want to fight a full-grown bear, let alone a Sasquatch. Yeah, me neither. And that's now chapter 7, Rest, Then Home. Was it a bear or was it a Sasquatch in our little camp last night? Almost scared us to death. We load the canoes just before dawn and slip offshore and across the dark water. Let's talk about good energy and vibrations, I tell the boys. We wonder if we sing, if that will keep them away or draw attention. It's not long before we reach another portage, a short portage with lots of trips back and forth. I get a small fire going for tea, and eventually we're all together with the canoe, our supplies, cups of tea, and a bite to eat. We have a short paddle ahead and then another portage, and then we'll set up camp and rest. The air has thinned a bit, and it seems easier to breathe. We start to notice all the spring blooms and take turns naming the plants, the flowers, the shrubs, the trees. Each step takes us closer and closer to the safety of our home village. This second portage today really took the strength out of me, and I need to rest for a day or two. I'm not as young as I used to be. A small lean-to is set up in no time. The fire is going, food is cooking, and hot tea is ready. More tea. It's near dark as I nod off to sleep. And what a sleep it was. I needed that. I didn't wake till the sun came up. My brave grandsons watched over camp while I slept. All was quiet through the night, and we all felt more rested. We will rest here for an hour or two and continue on to the next paddle. We still have a little over a day away to go. We camp upriver tonight and we'll be home by tomorrow afternoon, if all goes well. And if it goes well, we'll arrive with gifts for all, with many food and herb preserves, and a few stories to exchange. And my grandsons and I will never be the same again. After lighting a small bundle of sage, we gather round to cleanse for the next part of our journey, our adventure, and off we go, pushing the canoes into the water with a spring in our step, and soon the songs. As we paddle the lake at last, crossing, we are in familiar lands and water. And these more than capable young men, my grandsons, they sing all the way across the lake, and our people are beginning to gather on the far shore, calling out to us and welcoming us. More singing and prayers. Aho! By the time we reach our shore, we're all crying. Some tears of joy and some tears of relief. Our welcome party was crying too as we pulled our heavy canoes ashore. Many hands to carry the loads, up to the main village lodge. You can hear the foxes yipping out there. We all know what it's like to return home. It's always a good feeling. It's so good to be home with the ones I love. I half forgot why I left in the first place. An old uncle came to visit and found out where I went and sent my grandsons to go get me. He knew there were stories of that place and a village from long ago, and he feared for my life. There were many people who feared for me once it was figured out where I went. If I knew the stories of that area, I would have planned my adventure in another direction. I'm so thankful to my grandsons, the village, and my family. I was already thinking of leaving my little camp because of the Sasquatch family across the lake, but I wasn't sure of when and how, and their arrival at my little camp was just what I needed. It's all a memory now, mostly good, but also scary. I'll settle back into a routine and my belonging to this wonderful village. I tell every one of my grandsons' bravery and how they took care of me, my rescue party. But we hold back on the encounters with Sasquatch. That is left for around the fire when the small children are asleep. The villagers know that we've had encounters. They will all be sitting around the fire tonight, waiting to hear about it. And they will. We're almost splitting with excitement to tell our stories. And there are stories that even my grandsons haven't heard yet. It's going to be a long night or two. The food and the stories will be abundant, and of course, cups of hot tea. And that's the end of chapter 7. We'll read into chapter 8 on the next read, and I think that'll take us almost right to the end of the book next time. Thanks for joining me and stopping by for tea and listening to the old stories. I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. It keeps this little channel growing. And if you leave a comment, tell us about your bush tales and stories. Might be a bear encounter or a cougar. I might read them on one of my videos, so the next story you hear might be yours. And until next time, as always, be kind to nature and go into the forest as often as you can. Thank you.